Camilla's life existed in the mathematics of survival. 3 jobs, $67,000 in student loans from a degree she never finished, $17 in her checking account until next Friday. The Aurelius paid her rent barely. The weekend catering gig covered utilities. The overnight diner shift funded everything else. Food, MetroCard, the medications her mother needed but Medicare wouldn't cover. She had learned to exist in spaces designed for people nothing like her, had perfected the art of being present without being seen, of serving wealth while drowning in debt. Young Lee had first appeared 4 weeks ago, and the restaurant had shifted around him like water parting for a shark. Managers straightened their ties. The head chef personally inspected his plate. Even the sommelier, a man who'd served presidents, moved with careful deference. Jung Lee sat at table 7 with his back to the wall, eyes tracking every entrance, every exit, every face. Min Ho, his bodyguard, stood nearby like controlled violence wrapped in expensive fabric. 4 visits. Same table, same order, same quiet intensity, a pattern so precise it felt like clockwork. But tonight, as Camilla approached with his water, she noticed Minho's hand trembling imperceptibly as he checked his phone. The bodyguard's jaw was clenched too tight. His eyes darted toward the kitchen entrance once, twice, 3 times. And when Camilla set down Jung Lee's glass, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Minho's watch displayed a countdown timer. 11 minutes. 10. 9. Someone was coming for Young Lee tonight, and his bodyguard was counting down the seconds until he died. Camilla forced herself to move normally, refilling wine glasses at nearby tables while her heart hammered against her ribs. She watched Min Ho from the corner of her eye. The bodyguard checked his watch every 30 seconds, 8 minutes now, 7.5 his movements, mechanical, compulsive. When his phone buzzed, he answered in rapid Mandarin, not Korean. Camilla's Mandarin was limited to numbers and greetings from her time working in Chinatown, but she caught enough. Confirmed. East exit, 10 minutes. Minho's posture had gone rigid, his shoulders locked with the tension of a man balancing on a knife's edge. This wasn't vigilance. This was panic dressed as professionalism. Then she saw it. A Chinese man in an immaculate gray suit entered through the main entrance, scanning the room before his eyes locked on Min Ho. The bodyguard excused himself. Restroom break, he murmured to Jung Lee, and intercepted the stranger near the bar. The exchange lasted 15 seconds. The man in gray handed Min Ho a red envelope. Min Ho accepted it with the smooth, practiced ease of someone who'd rehearsed this moment 100 times. No surprise. No hesitation. Just a transaction that looked too perfect to be spontaneous. Camilla's instincts, honed from growing up in neighborhoods where you learned to read danger or died young, screamed a single truth. Young Lee's most trusted protector had just sold him out. The countdown timer on Minho's watch now read 6 minutes, 42 seconds, and Jung Lee sat calmly finishing his whiskey, completely unaware he was already a dead man. Camilla's hands trembled as she gripped her order pad. Every survival instinct she possessed screamed the same command. Stay invisible, stay safe, stay alive. Men like Young Lee existed in a world that had destroyed people like her. Her brother Marcus had been collateral damage in someone else's gang war, 16 years old, caught in crossfire while walking home from basketball practice. No one with power had intervened. No one had cared. Why should she risk her life for a man who probably wouldn't remember her name tomorrow? But the countdown timer burned in her mind. 5 minutes now. Somewhere in this restaurant, maybe already inside, killers were moving into position, and Jung Lee sat there trusting the man who'd already sold his life for the price of his own debts. Camilla thought of Marcus bleeding out on a sidewalk while expensive cars drove past without stopping. She thought of her mother's face at the funeral, asking why no one had helped. She thought of every time she'd been invisible, powerless, voiceless in rooms full of people who mattered more than she ever would. Her hand moved almost of its own accord, scrawling words on her order pad. Your bodyguard gave you out. You are the payment. They're coming for you tonight. East kitchen exit is compromised. She tore the page free, folded it once, and approached table 7 with Jung Lee's bill. Her fingers barely functioned as she slid the note between the leather folder and the receipt. Jung Lee opened it. His eyes scanned the note. And for one terrible heartbeat, his gaze lifted and locked directly onto hers. Young Lee's expression didn't change. Not a flicker of surprise, not a trace of fear. He simply folded the note with deliberate precision, signaled for his check, and stood with unhurried grace. "I'll use the main entrance tonight," he announced, loud enough for Minho to hear. Minho's phone was already at his ear, speaking rapidly in Korean now. "Target moving to front exit." Repeat, "front exit." The bodyguard's face remained professionally blank, but Camilla saw the micro-expression of triumph flash across his features. The trap was working, but Young Lee didn't move toward the front entrance. Instead, he pivoted smoothly through the private dining room reserved for wedding parties, pushed through the kitchen's swinging doors as confused cooks scattered, and disappeared through the wine cellar, access a service route only senior staff knew existed, leading to a basement exit on an entirely different street. Minho's face transformed in an instant. The professional mask shattered, replaced by raw panic. He bolted after Jung Lee, shouting into his phone in Mandarin, "Wrong exit! Wrong exit! He knows!" But Jung Lee was already gone. Camilla's shift ended at 11. She walked to the subway with her head down, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. 3 blocks from the station, she noticed him, a man in a dark jacket, maintaining exactly 15 feet of distance. When she crossed the street, he crossed. When she stopped at a bodega, he waited outside. Her apartment was 12 blocks away, and she'd just painted a target on her own back. The man's phone buzzed. He answered, his eyes never leaving her. "We found the girl who warned him." Camilla's apartment building had no security, no doormen, no cameras. She climbed 5 flights of stairs with her keys threaded between her fingers like makeshift claws, checking every shadow, every corner. Inside her studio, she locked the door, shoved her dresser against it, and sat on the floor with her back to the wall, trying to control her breathing. The man in the dark jacket knew where she lived. They all did now. Her phone rang at 2:47 a.m., unknown number. Camilla stared at it for 3 rings before answering, "Miss Mikkelsen." The woman's voice was smooth as silk wrapped around a blade. "My name is Seo Yeon. I work for Mr. Lee. He wanted me to inform you that he's alive because of your warning tonight." Camilla's throat closed. "Are they our people coming for me? That depends entirely on the choice you make in the next 10 seconds. So-yeon's tone remained perfectly even. "You can run. We'll give you enough money to disappear, new city, new name, new life. Or you can stay and meet with Mr. Lee tomorrow evening. But understand this. The moment you saved his life, you became visible. And in our world, visibility means you're either protected or you're prey. Choose now." Camilla thought of her mother, her job, her entire life contained within 15 blocks of the Bronx. She thought of the man who'd followed her home. "I'll meet him. Smart girl. 7 o'clock. I'll send you the address." The line went dead. The next evening, Camilla stood outside a tea house in Koreatown she'd walked past 1,000 times but never entered. Inside, Young Lee sat alone in a private room where paper screens filtered soft light and the air smelled of jasmine and expensive tobacco. "Sit," he said, not looking up from pouring tea into 2 cups. Camilla sat. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Minho worked for me for 12 years, Young Lee began, his voice carrying the weight of a man who'd learned emotion was a luxury he couldn't afford. "He took a bullet for me in Seoul. He knew every safe house, every contact, every weakness I possessed. And 6 months ago, the Chinese triads discovered his gambling addiction, $3.2 million in debt to their loan sharks." He finally met her eyes. They didn't kill him. They offered him something more valuable than his life. They offered him freedom from his debt. All he had to do was deliver me. Not information, Miss Mikkelsen. Me. Alive. To be used as leverage against my entire organization. Young Lee slid a jade pendant across the table. "Minho chose to make me currency. You chose to make yourself a target. The question now is, what happens next?" Outside, Camilla heard car doors slamming, multiple voices speaking rapid Mandarin, and she realized with dawning horror that the tea house was surrounded. Young Lee didn't flinch at the sounds outside. The triads want to finish what Minho started, he said calmly, pouring tea as if armed men weren't surrounding the building. They're angry that I escaped. Angrier still that a server disrupted their multi-million-dollar operation. They want both of us dead. Camilla's pulse hammered in her ears. Then why are we sitting here? Because I'm offering you a choice, Miss Mikhailson. And I don't make offers twice. Jung Lee pushed the jade pendant closer. This pendant bears my family crest. In the world I operate in, it means you're under my protection. Untouchable. But protection comes with expectations. You saved my life through observation and courage, qualities I value more than loyalty purchased with money. Work for me. Move between worlds I cannot access. Gather intelligence in spaces where men like me draw too much attention. Or, Camilla's voice barely functioned, or I give you $200,000, a new identity, and a one-way ticket to any city in America. You disappear tonight. Live quietly. Live safely. But live knowing you'll always be looking over your shoulder, wondering if they're still searching. Outside, footsteps approached the tea house entrance. Seo Yun's voice cut through the night in sharp Mandarin. Back away. Unless you want a war you cannot win. Jung Lee's eyes never left Camilla's face. The pendant or the money. Protection or obscurity. Choose now. Camilla's hand closed around the jade. It was warm, as if it had been waiting for her. I choose this. Something shifted in Jung Lee's expression, respect, perhaps, or recognition. Then you're mine now, and I protect what's mine. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Let's introduce you to the world. The moment Camilla stepped outside wearing the pendant, everything changed. The triad enforcers froze mid-advance. One of them made a phone call, spoke urgently, then retreated. Just retreated. On the walk back to her apartment, a police officer who would have normally stopped and questioned a black woman in this neighborhood at night instead nodded with unmistakable deference. Street dealers who usually called out to pedestrians went silent and stepped aside. The bodega owner who'd always watched her with suspicion suddenly smiled. Miss Mikhailson, can I get you anything? On the house. By the time Camilla reached her building, she understood. The jade pendant hadn't just marked her as protected. It had transformed her into someone powerful people recognized and feared. Her phone buzzed. A text from Seo Yun. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Your training begins. Don't be late. And Miss Mikhailson, pack a bag. You're not coming back here. The second text arrived seconds later. Minho's body was found in the Hudson an hour ago. The triads left him there as a message. This is the world you've just entered. There's no going back now. Jung Lee's penthouse occupied the entire 53rd floor of a building overlooking Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan like a kingdom waiting to be claimed. Camilla stood on the rooftop terrace at dawn, the city spreading beneath her in every direction, and felt simultaneously insignificant and impossibly powerful. Beautiful, isn't it? Jung Lee joined her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Most people see a city. I see a chessboard. Camilla accepted the coffee, her fingers still adjusting to the weight of the jade pendant against her collarbone. What am I in this game? A pawn? Pawns are predictable. You're something far more valuable, you're unexpected. Jung Lee leaned against the railing, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. I'm offering you a formal position, Miss Mikhailson. Intelligence operative. You'll move through spaces I cannot enter, charity galas, art galleries, luxury hotels, political fundraisers, places where black women in service uniforms are invisible. You'll listen, observe, report. You'll be my eyes in rooms that close their doors to men like me. And what does this cost me? Camilla's voice was steady, but her heart raced. Not money. What does it really cost? Jung Lee studied her with something approaching approval. Honesty. Good. Most people are afraid to ask that question. He set down his coffee. You'll gain power, real power. Protection. Resources. Influence. But you'll lose the luxury of being underestimated. Right now, people look at you and see a server, a victim, someone they can ignore. Once you become mine, they'll see a weapon. They'll watch your every move. They'll test you, constantly, and if you fail, if you show weakness, they won't just destroy you, they'll use you against me. I'm not afraid of hard work. This isn't work, Miss Mikhailson. This is war conducted with smiles and handshakes instead of bullets. One wrong word, one misread situation, and people die. His expression hardened. Are you prepared to carry that weight? Camilla thought of Minho's body in the Hudson, of the triads surrounding the tea house, of every moment in her life when she'd been powerless, voiceless, invisible. I'm prepared to become someone who makes the choices instead of living with everyone else's consequences. Then we have an agreement. Jung Lee extended his hand. Camilla shook it. The moment their hands touched, her phone exploded with alerts. Text messages, missed calls, news notifications. She pulled it out, her blood turning to ice as she read the headline flashing across her screen. Aurelius restaurant fire. 7 dead, dozens injured, arson suspected. Jung Lee's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face darkening. When? A pause. I see. He ended the call and turned to Camilla. The triads just burned down your restaurant. Everyone who worked your shift last night is dead. They're sending a message. Anyone who helps me dies. Camilla's hands trembled. Her co-workers, Maria, who always split tips fairly, David, who joked about his bad knees, Sarah, who was saving for nursing school, all gone. They think you died in that fire, Jung Lee continued, his voice like granite. We can let them believe that, or you can help me make them pay. But if you choose revenge, Miss Mikhailson, there's no mercy. No halfway. You become exactly what they fear most. The training compound existed off every map, 2 hours north of the city in a facility that looked abandoned from the outside. Inside, it was a factory designed to break people and rebuild them into weapons. Camilla's first instructor was Marcus Chen, former Delta Force, who put her on the ground in 3 seconds during their initial sparring session. You fight like someone who's never had to win, he said, offering no hand up. In 6 weeks, you'll fight like someone who refuses to lose. Day 1. Camilla couldn't complete 10 push-ups. Week 3. She sparred for 20 minutes straight, her body moving with precision she never knew she possessed. Marcus stopped pulling his punches after week 4. If I go easy on you, the first real fight will kill you, he explained, while she spat blood into a sink. The observation drills were psychological torture. Seo Yun would walk Camilla through crowded spaces, train stations, shopping centers, restaurants, then quiz her hours later. The man in the gray coat. Wedding ring? Left hand. Gold band. Wore it loose, probably lost weight recently. The woman with the Gucci bag. Real or fake? Fake. Hardware was wrong. She knew it too, kept the logo turned away from crowds. Weapons training began week 2. Camilla learned to field strip a Glock blindfolded, to shoot center mass from 30 feet, to recognize the weight difference between a loaded and empty magazine by feel alone. She learned that killing someone wasn't about anger, it was about making a decision and following through without hesitation. Strategic thinking exercises happened over dinner, Jung Lee presenting real scenarios. A rival family offers an alliance. They're lying. How do you prove it without starting a war? Camilla learned to think 3 moves ahead, to see the chessboard instead of just the pieces. Seo Yan had been skeptical at first, watching Camilla's early training sessions with barely concealed doubt. She's soft, she told Jung Lee within Camilla's earshot. She'll break. But by week 4, after Camilla disarmed an instructor twice her size and negotiated a practice scenario that impressed even Jung Lee, So-Yun's opinion shifted. She doesn't fight like us, Seo-Yun admitted during a late-night training review. She fights smarter. She sees angles we miss because we're too busy thinking about dominance. She thinks about survival. Week 6. Final evaluation. Camilla walked into an ambush scenario, 3 armed opponents in a warehouse, her weapon hidden, 60 seconds to survive. She used shadows, noise, psychology, turned them against each other. When the exercise ended, all 3 instructors were dead, and Camilla stood in the center, breathing hard but unharmed. Jung Lee watched from the observation deck. She's ready. That night, Camilla received a text from an unknown number. Your first assignment. Tomorrow night, the Plaza Hotel. Chinese Triad leadership is meeting with someone from Zheng Li's organization. We don't know who. Find the traitor. You have 4 hours. The second text arrived immediately after. If you fail, they'll kill Zheng Li. And this time, no one will warn him. The Plaza Hotel's private function room glittered with wealth and violence masquerading as civility. Camilla entered wearing a designer dress that cost more than her former yearly salary, the jade pendant visible against her skin, a declaration of protection and a target simultaneously. She'd studied the guest list for hours. Zheng Li's inner circle, 8 people, the Triad delegation, 5. Somewhere in this room, one of Zheng Li's most trusted had sold him out, again. She moved through conversations with practiced ease, her training transforming every interaction into intelligence gathering. The Triad underboss, Wei Chen, watched her with predatory interest. "You're Zheng Li's new acquisition," he said, not bothering with pleasantries. "The server girl who got lucky." "Luck implies chance," Camilla replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I made a choice. There's a difference." Wei Chen smiled without warmth. "Choices have consequences in our world, Miss Mikhailson. Min Ho made a choice. The Aurelius staff made choices by helping Zheng Li. We taught them all about consequences." Camilla's blood went cold, but her expression remained neutral. Burning down a restaurant full of innocent people. Very brave. Survival isn't about bravery. It's about sending messages others can't ignore. Wei Chen leaned closer. "So what message are you here to send tonight?" Before Camilla could respond, she noticed it a micro-gesture she'd been trained to recognize. Across the room, James Park, Zheng Li's logistics coordinator, touched his left earlobe twice while making eye contact with Wei Chen's bodyguard. The same signal Min Ho had used before receiving the red envelope. "I'm here to observe," Camilla said carefully, her mind racing. "To learn how real power operates." "And what have you learned?" "That loyalty is currency. And some people spend it cheaper than others." She watched James Park excuse himself, heading toward the private restrooms. "Excuse me," Camilla followed at a distance. In the corridor, she heard James speaking rapid Mandarin into his phone. "Tonight. The shipment arrives at Pier 47 at midnight. Zheng Li will be there personally." "Yes, I'm certain." She'd found the traitor. But as Camilla turned to retreat, she walked directly into Wei Chen, who'd followed her from the party. His smile was arctic. "Very clever, Miss Mikhailson. You were supposed to discover James tonight. We made sure you would." Her training kicked in, calculating exits, weapons, odds of survival. "James is disposable," Wei Chen continued. "We have someone much closer to Zheng Li. Someone he'd never suspect. And you just triggered the real trap by following the obvious bait." He checked his watch. "Zheng Li is walking into an ambush right now, thinking he's ahead of us, and you're here, unable to warn him." Camilla's phone vibrated. A text from Seo Yun. "Zheng Li went to Pier 47 alone. Won't answer his phone. Something's wrong." Wei Chen's smile widened. "The question is, Miss Mikhailson, can you get to him before the bullets do? Or will you watch another man die because you weren't fast enough?"